Welcome to the Unstuck and Happy podcast. We all get stuck, but how long you stay there is up to you. I'm your host, John Polish, founder of the Unstuck Happiness Conference. And this is the show where we interview people who've overcome tremendous adversity and have emerged as leaders. So if you need a little inspiration and hope in your day, get ready, because here comes another great Unstuck story. So we all have tragedies in life. It's really what you do with it that is important. And I'm really excited about today's guest because she is somebody, not only is she very important to me, but she is somebody who has literally taken her pain, turned it into a positive, and created an entire movement with it. So welcome, Alexa Glazer. So Alexa, tell us a little bit about your journey. What led you to start the Livin the Dream movement?
Yeah, I mean, so many things, but if we really go back to connecting all those dots, I lost my dad 6 years ago, and his entire motto on life was living the dream. And I don't think I understood what he meant by living the dream until after he had passed and just working through my grief. And so I really learned that living the dream is not your end all be all, but it's something we have to process and live through every single day, from our highest to our rock bottom moments. And so my dad was really the kickstart of this kind of journey of grief and life and the in between of that, and doing more than just existing, and was probably my biggest kind of smack in the face up to this point, for sure.
So I've heard you speak about this a few times now, and you talk about the grief and how that kind of motivated you. And you talked a lot about how your life from the outside seemed to be perfect.
Yeah.
Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah. So when I started this living the dream journey, I had this woman say to me, well, of course you're living the dream. You're young, blonde, and living on the beach. And I looked at this woman and I was like, sure, in terms of society, I guess I'm young by the number of age that I am. And if you look closely, my roots are definitely not blonde. And at that point, I had never lived on the beach. And so from the outside looking in, yeah, people thought that my life was just perfect. And basically what I had told that woman was, put a brown bag over my head. I don't care if you know what I look like, know how old I am, anything about me, just hear me. I want you to hear my message. And fast forward in time, and I actually started taking pictures with a brown bag over my head to kind of crush those stereotypes and really allow people to feel comfortable with who they are, tragedies, and all of us, so that makes us who we are. And so that was definitely kind of the start of it, and also kind of fuel to my fire this entire time was to really look past what's on the outside and story tell to hear what's actually going on with people's lives.
Awesome. So what is the Live in the Dream movement all about then?
Yeah, I started by kind of putting post-it notes in random places with positive affirmations all around, and which has been so perfect right now with social distancing, because I've kind of been doing that with people's inboxes on Instagram and all these things. But it really just started as like I wanted small acts to create bigger change. And I had realized early on that I am special, you are special, but no one is special enough to change the world by ourselves. And so the more people that I could connect with and kind of get them on my team and like have this live in the dream party, the bigger impact that I could make. And so it's really just proving to people that we are living the dream every single day, regardless of what kind of day it is.
So why is that so important to you?
I think because I know that on like my hardest days, it's something I want to feel, we need to feel, but I don't ever want to stay in that. But I know that like the day that my dad passed away, and the day I found out I got cheated on or broken up with, or all these other traumatic moments of my life, that those are the moments where I have grown the most and where I have like really learned and felt what that happiness is, or that joy or bliss in life, if you don't have those rock bottom moments, I truly believe there's no way that you can find like your best self is on your best day.
Okay, so how does that lead you to leaving post-it notes for people though?
Yeah, because I think a big part of the dream is those small victories. So for me, rather than like random acts of kindness, my post-its are kind of like random acts of hope. One of my biggest missions is to make everybody feel like a somebody when they feel like a nobody. And I think the reason I'm so strong on that is because there's been a time where I have felt like a nobody, or I have felt unseen and unheard or just alone. And that is such a debilitating feeling to have. And so if I can do the smallest little thing to make someone feel like, not just that they have purpose, but that there's someone that sees them, that to me is so important. And that's like what those little post-its are. Again, super small in terms of how to change the world, but I think part of changing the world is changing someone's world. And a little post-it can honestly go a long way, especially when it's handwritten and they're all different.
I think you said something really powerful in that, going back to the woman who said you were young and beautiful and living on the beach. And then you just mentioned feeling alone and scared and, broken up with and all those other things. I think that at times people like that woman would say those things because that's what they're projecting in their mind. Well, if I only were young and beautiful and living on the beach, then I wouldn't feel these things too. And to know that you're feeling the same way, that does bring hope to people.
Absolutely. And I think that's part of it is when you are in a position where you're trying to help people, it's really giving people all of you or none of you. And I think when I first started learning how hard life was, because honestly, for 21 years, I thought that I was one of those lucky ones and nothing bad was ever going to happen to me. And I don't blame myself because up to that point, nothing bad had ever happened. But I had just learned that the baggage that we carry is stuff that everyone you encounter should get a chance to experience because it's how we connect with each other. And for a long time, I kind of wanted to hide those things from from other people because I felt like I was going to scare them off. And there's times it does scare people off, and that's okay. I've realized now because it just means that they don't need to be a person that's in my life because all of these things are a part of me and they've made me who I am. So by me being open and saying yes, I would say 8 out of 10 times I'm an extremely positive person, but I'm also human. So I have felt all those feelings. I've been at rock bottom. I've done all those things that every other human is doing, but you have to have that transparency for people to be able to feel that from you.
So true. And, it's funny because the same people, you have those people that say that, you're young and beautiful and living on the beach and that's why your life's perfect. And then when you struggle, people compare all the time. And one of the things that I found very interesting is when you finally find that sense of purpose, that reason to get out of bed, and you feel like your life has meaning, which I know yours does now, makes a lot of people uncomfortable.
Oh my God.
And I didn't realize how many people are not happy with that because they're not happy with their own lives. And I have literally had people say to me before, boy, I really liked it when you were unhappy because I thought we could relate. And now that you're doing all these other things, I can't relate to you. And it's scary and sad at the same time, isn't it?
Yeah, I think even too from like the opposite perspective, there's been times where I've been like, "Oh my God, everything is going so well. I don't want something bad to happen, but I kind of need it to so that I can do a little bit more growing because I'm feeling stagnant and although I'm happy and in bliss right now or whatever, I need something to kind of kick me in the butt to like move me to that next step where before I went through something bad or lesser of the good, I would have never, not that I wish it upon myself, but you know what I'm saying? You start to kind of crave the growth a little bit or just kind of a sense of a new chapter in your life and just another way to connect with people. And that's kind of a weird perspective to have, or maybe it makes me uncomfortable because I've actually never said that out loud until right now, I don't think, but I do think it's true.
It's an interesting perspective. I'm not ready to pray that prayer yet, that more bad things happen. But I definitely know how you feel, and it does help us to grow. Actually, one of the things that I'm working through at the moment is I've gotten to the point where I'm resilient. I've proved that I'm resilient. I've proved that I can overcome adversity. Even this podcast is about overcoming adversity. And I'm just now trying to get comfortable with the fact that not everything has to be adversity. That sometimes I can just accept the good and not, it's almost like there's a sense of pride in overcoming a challenge. So if it's not a challenge, it's not worth it.
Yeah, no, totally. I think even in this time that we're in now, it's forcing everyone to slow down a bit, which is something I literally needed something to force upon me because I was like, go, go, go. I'm doing this and doing that. I don't want to be doing half those things, but I'm doing them anyway. And this has been a time where I've kind of got to sit in this phase and season of life. And I wouldn't say personally anything amazing or anything terrible happening, but it's just like riding that wave right now and being okay with that wave that I'm on.
It's interesting. I've been on a couple of other podcasts lately, and I get asked the question when I go on shows like, how do you stay happy during all this time? Like, how do you remain positive and happy and inspirational? And the answer I want to give is, what makes you think I am? We have those moments where it's a struggle. But for me, it is staying future oriented and knowing that your life has purpose and meaning. And it's, today it is what it is. But if I have a future to look forward to, I have something to keep me motivated and something to, look ahead, look forward to. That's where the inspiration lies. It's in future oriented things.
Yeah. And I think too, piggybacking off that, there's a lot of kind of shaming going around with how anyone is handling this. And I think it's what you said earlier about how people project their inner thoughts and inner feelings on other people. So if there's someone that's feeling very unproductive right now, they want to shame anyone who's productive and say, like, we're in a pandemic, how are you trying to think about the future? And then you have the people who are being productive but feeling like they do want to just Netflix binge, and so then they're shaming people for the opposite thing. And where I'm just like, everyone just feel what you need to feel on that day. If you are struggling that day, feel it, but know you can't sit in that. And so every day is different. I mean, I'm trying to be as productive as possible and focus on that future. But yesterday I had a day where I was like, I need to take a 2-hour nap in the middle of the day and then watch the TV show and then do nothing else productive. And I was okay with it because that's the kind of day it was. But this like shame around everyone is just, it drags everything down. I hate that.
Right. So along those lines, people ask me all the time, how do you become a motivational speaker? And my answer is really simple. It starts with having a messed up life so you have something to talk about.
I was going to say, you meet a stranger at Starbucks wearing an Ohio State shirt and you say OH to them.
I tell you, that t-shirt has done more wonders for me than any other marketing. And, meeting you was definitely one of the highlights of, my Starbucks life for sure. But yeah, it's awesome to hear people's stories and then see how they respond to it. And for example, your story is losing your father is where it begins. And honestly, half of us in this world can relate to that, and the other half are about to.
Yeah.
So your story in itself, there's what makes it special is what you've done with it.
Yeah. And
you set your mind to do something, and there's no stopping you once you set your mind to it. I've seen that. But I also know that it comes from a place of pain.
Mm-hmm.
And we often teach what we need the most. And you have set out, and not only have you been speaking and helping other teams, Alexa came to Las Vegas to be a UNLV Rebel girl, and a national champ and excelled at that. And now you're excelling in the speaking world. And what's kind of funny is I can remember making a comment that I'm like, I would like to just get a bus and just take Unstuck on the road. And I have a goal to do a conference in all 50 states. So why don't I just get a bus and go do it? And then the next time I see Alexa, she's like, oh, I just bought a bus. And so you are doing things that most of us just dream of. What inspired you to do that?
I think traveling became a big part of my life in kind of the end of a different relationship, getting broken up with. It really made me start wanting to travel because I didn't want to run into this person. And then I realized how much of a love I had for that, and kind of just challenging like my sensory of being in a new place and meeting new people and starting to connect with others. And I kind of had this thought in my mind, like, I would love to live in a van one day, but just kind of like what you said, it was just a thought, and I never took any type of action on that. And then 2 years ago, I spoke at a student leadership conference in Arizona. And afterwards, I was talking to another speaker, and I accidentally word vomited that I would love to live in a van one day. And he called me out on my BS and was like, you talk about living the dream, you tell people how to do it, and you're not living yours. And I was like, whew, I got no excuse. Yeah. And I bought my van 3 months later, and I've now lived in it full time for 9 months. And really, sure, that's great to go chase sunsets and meet people and experience and see the country. However, the reason I did this was that so I could be more intentional about creating this movement that actually moves and teaches and talks and connects with people along the way. And the vision of what I want my life to look like, which is going to pivot a million times, I like started that by moving into the van and starting to speak across the country. But I just cannot wait to the point where that is full time, the everything that I'm doing, and just creating all this positive juju in the world that I possibly can.
Positive juju.
Yeah, that just again,
okay.
Word vomit.
You trademarking that?
Yeah.
So how is it going on the road?
It's good. I am not on the road right now with all of this coronavirus madness going on. I was in California, and I was kind of at the point where I was going to start hunkering down and just staying in places a little bit longer, and because I was kind of burning out doing that much traveling, and also burning out my bank account that is now very minimal. But so I'm in Ohio and kind of just grounding myself until this all blows over, and then kind of going to see where the next step leads me. But anything that could go wrong with my van has, and it's been 8 months of such quick growth. Like, I feel like I have aged in wisdom so much in the last 9 months that would have taken me years. And that's because I've just learned so much about boundaries and pouring into the right people, not necessarily all people. And when you get lost, or you need a jump start, or you have no service, I mean, just the real life and just kind of stuff I probably should know, I've grown tremendously. It's been insane.
I can only imagine what it's like out there.
Yes.
But I would bet that it gets a little lonely too.
Honestly, so before I moved into the van, I was like, I am going to really know what silence sounds like, and I am going to be lonely all the time. And I have to say, I have not felt lonely in the last 9 months. Have I been completely alone at times? Yes, but I have also learned the difference between lonely and alone. But, and I guess that might just be the type of person I am as well, as like, I knew that I didn't want to feel lonely. And so, I mean, I could talk to the wall in front of me without you being here and start a conversation. And
You're
so,
not the first one that told me that, but that's okay.
but where I can walk into a coffee shop or into the grocery store or wherever, and I have really gotten to meet just amazing people and have connected, where I've honestly, and luckily, I guess, have not felt that really deep sense of loneliness since being on the road. But I know how you could. I'm also very much a city dweller, rather than just going off the grid all the time. So it's just, I guess, the choices I've made so that I don't feel that way.
So what are you looking forward to the most?
Whew, honestly, gosh, that's hard. I I'm like, I gosh, so many things. I definitely do though think getting back on the road to speak, and I really feel like I was gaining momentum in what I really want to be doing with my life. And although I think some of those things are put on pause right now because of the way that the world is, life isn't put on pause. So I'm kind of just excited to grow into this season of life. And then I just think that things are going to be even better than I anticipated now. But really it's just the speaking. I just can't wait to keep doing that.
So what is it about speaking that you love?
So I danced, as you said, my entire life. And up until 2 years ago, I had back surgery. And I was always wondering how I was going to be able to get that adrenaline rush when I stopped dancing and being on stage. And it was never about like having the attention on me, but it was always about making people feel something. And before it was making people feel something through movement, where now I've been able to storytell through words written and spoken. And so the thing I think I enjoy most about speaking is what I call light bulb moments. And you don't have to say anything to me. There doesn't have to be anything major happening, but it's like I physically see a light bulb go off over your head with whether it was a story that you connected to or insight that I have given or anything like that. That truly just keeps me going and why I love speaking so much.
So challenging the normal train of thought.
Yeah.
Awesome.
For sure.
I'll never forget meeting you in the coffee shop and hearing that you wanted to speak and share your story. And I'm thrilled to have been a part of that early on and to get you see you at a few different Unstuck conferences. One of the things that I've been working on, we've taken the Unstuck conference and I'm trying to duplicate that, actually just missed doing one in Arizona because of this, but we will be doing it as soon as this is over. And then moving to personal development retreats, which we just started, which are amazing, but also doing a coaching program that I call Adversity to Influencer, where it can take somebody in a year's time and walk them from being in the middle of their pain to processing it to actually using that to inspire other people. And it's something that you've been able to do. You've been able to take your pain and influence other people. And tell me how that feels for you.
Whew, it gives me chills a little bit because I think when you go through this process, I think we all at times get that imposter syndrome in a sense of how can I speak on this? I've gone through one experience, or we're constantly comparing ourselves to others where like my story sucks, but it could be worse. And I've said that so many times. I've said it literally probably yesterday, but the truth is don't take away from the pain that you're feeling. And there's 7.53 billion people in the world, and I'm that crazy one who thinks that we're all connected. But the reason like you're connected is through that storytelling, which like you said eventually does influence others. But it's I think a process of just being comfortable with those dark places and being able to speak on that. I know for me, like when I lost my dad, everyone threw the 5 stages of grief at me. And I was like, heck yeah, I'm a disciplined person. I'm going to be done with this in 5 weeks, maybe 5 months, but check off all these stages. And people tell you those things, I think, to try and make things feel a little bit better. And they say time heals all and it's going to get better. And I don't necessarily blame those people because I don't think that they've been through something yet. But what I have learned is just being comfortable with that pain, knowing that it doesn't get easier, but it just gets more manageable, and being able to speak on that truth rather than just the fibs that everyone else wants to feed you has been kind of a huge breaking point for me. I've even learned in my grief when I finally went to a grief group for the first time after 6 years. I've never gone to therapy, never done all these things. I speak on this and thought that that was my therapy and wasn't doing the work necessarily on my own. And being able to surround yourself with other people who are grieving, I was like, oh my God, these thoughts I'm having aren't so crazy. And so the more you speak on it, the more you can help yourself, honestly, rather than helping other people, it's helping you first.
Yeah. One of the things that we're doing the documentary, which you have helped with tremendously, thank you. But there's a part in there where I talk about how all of us still, I equate the speakers on stage to a car stuck in the mud. And at once that car gets moving again, you could still drive it, everything's fine, but there's still some mud on the tires. And that's how we all are. We're still processing, we're still doing the things. That imposter syndrome that you mentioned is so real, because a lot of us, honestly, we speak on the things that we need. And you are an expert because you're an expert in your own life. You're the one who's been through it. When I did the retreat for the Route 91 victims, beginning of March, that imposter syndrome kicked in big time. And I watched people walk in the room like, these people have been through a mass shooting. They've watched their friends die in front of them. Who am I to do this? Like, there's no way. And they were so quiet and reserved that Friday night that I wasn't about to open up and share my story right away. And somebody asked me, well, what's your story? I'm like, I'll tell you tomorrow. And then halfway through Saturday, I opened up and started sharing my stories. Once I did, the response I got was amazing. They started opening up and sharing theirs.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is their stories were 10 times more powerful than mine was. But my vulnerability, my ability to open up and share gave them kind of permission and encouragement to share as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one of the things about the whole imposter syndrome. It's not about having the best story always. It's about being able to trust people and get them to trust you, to be vulnerable, to be seen. And it would be very easy for you to continue to live life as the young pretty girl and not just be seen for that. But you chose to be vulnerable. And
yeah. There's so much power in that. I think sometimes too, it's the most insignificant parts of our story that connect you with someone else. I know it was the second Unstuck conference I did for you. That was 2 or 3 months after my back surgery. And I went up there talking about the time the nurse told me to take my underwear off and was a complete goof, but extremely vulnerable about the situation. And I remember connecting with a woman named Summer, and who had the back surgery a couple years prior. I don't remember exactly timeline, but she connected so much with the underwear story that I was like, Alexa, why are you saying this out loud right now on stage? But it was something that really connected her to me. And she came up to me afterwards and talked, and we have still maintained some of a relationship. We're friends on Facebook and Instagram. And so sometimes those small details are that connect the dots with someone else. And that to me is so freaking cool.
Yeah, it's amazing when that happens. There will be times when 3 people will come up to me and talk to me about a presentation and how much they got from it. And all 3 of them will have completely different parts of it. Like, okay, I really just kind of threw that in. Didn't expect that to make a difference. It's really cool when it does. What has been your aha moment, your really cool moment out there speaking?
I think a recent one for me, actually. It was at a school in Texas, 1,700 kids. And something I really pride myself on is somehow getting these kids, and not just kids, anyone, but in this situation in particular, getting them to trust me enough to come stand down in front of all of their peers and tell me something about their story. And this one girl had come down, and I asked her like what she wanted to be when she wanted to grow up, or what she wanted to do. And she was like, I want to be famous. And the way she said it, though, I was like, that's not what she meant. But like, you go, girl. I'm super proud of you for being courageous. Well, anyway, she came up to me at the end, and she just had this own epiphany, a light bulb moment. And she was like, I know I said I want to be famous, but I really just want to be known. And I want to love myself, because right now I feel like I can't. And you made me feel like I can. And I was just like, I have a video of the whole interaction too. A friend of mine came to video. And to me, just making people be courageous and a little bit more comfortable and maybe not know what the next step is. But that to me was just such an aha moment that like you are doing what you're supposed to be doing, whether you touch that one person or all 1,700 lives in that room. It really is just a matter of that one person. And it was her and then this other boy. He came up to me and he just hugged me and squeezed me and was like, it's so good to know that there are good people like you in this world. And such a simple thing, but it was just, it totally like knocked me off my socks for a second and just gave me that aha moment that this is what's important.
Absolutely. And it's funny because I'll get people to say to me something. Part of the business is you have to self promote, which I absolutely hate. You probably can tell. I don't do a whole lot of it. Just not, I don't think I'm good at it. I don't like doing it. And some people, when you do, they think that it's arrogance or conceited or whatever. And oh, you're just speaking because you want to be in the spotlight. And actually, it's for a lot of us, that's far from true. I don't think many of us choose this at life. It kind of chooses us. But the cool moments are not the moments when everyone applauds us. It's the moments when we realize we've touched somebody else's lives. And
Yeah.
the best part for me is hearing their stories afterwards. The applause are great, but when they come up and say, this changed my life, and for me, that to do the retreat that I just did, it was a huge honor because of the group that it was with. But to see the testimonials afterwards, and I still to this day get messages from people that were there, that is actually what's helping me get through the whole quarantine time. Just knowing that whatever I'm doing can make a difference for someone else. So I love that you've had that experience and going to have many more, aren't you?
I hope so. And like you said, sure, having a room full of people is great because your message gets to be heard by more people, but it's those interactions afterward or the people that reach out a month later or those like small, more intimate conversations that really kind of put us back in our place of the purpose and why we're doing it. And the big rooms and the lights and the stages that just facilitates those small but big connections.
So what's next?
Well, I would love for this coronavirus to make people healthy and move forward. But after that, once that's kind of done, I'm imagining I will head back to the West Coast. One thing about being in my van, I have learned that I can't really plan anything anymore because you got to expect the unexpected. So I don't really have any clear plans besides probably the West Coast and to live the dream a little bit more and a little bit harder and touch some more lives.
I'm afraid that people think that once this is over, that we're going to get this, it's like lifting the gate and we can all go, kind of picturing the wall coming down in Germany and we're just all going to run to the free side and everything's going to be great. I think we're in for some very tough times. A lot of people have been hit hard economically. I think companies are going to take a while to rebound. And I think that these stories of inspiration and hope are going to be more important than ever before.
Yeah, I think just the self-development field and avenue is going to grow because people are going to need it now more than ever, where I don't necessarily think, at least in my lifetime, I would say, that the amount of people who are grieving so many different things right now is like such a huge connection. And so just all of those types of things that we spread and hopefully other people will kind of try to latch on to is going to be so important right now because this is the one time literally everyone needs it.
And so your book, tell us about your book real quick.
Yeah, so it's called Living the Dream Today because tomorrow is not promised. Basically, I started writing as a coping mechanism and thought that that was going to fix me per se. And I published it 3 years ago. And so we're 6 years out, and I'm realizing it didn't fix me because you can't be fixed in this sense. And so I'm actually about to start my audiobook for that because it's taken me a couple years to do that. But again, I really believe in divine timing and honoring that gut feeling. So about to start that, but that's my first baby. I definitely want to write another one and many more to come. But yeah.
She doesn't do anything easily. That first baby was what, 420 some pages?
Yeah, it's long.
Yeah.
It's my
Awesome.
whole life. I mean, not really my whole life, but it's my whole heart, and just blood, sweat, and tears is definitely in those pages.
Well, I definitely appreciate how vulnerable you are and how open you are with your blood, sweat, and tears. And, I'm proud to see where you're at today. And it's just amazing to watch, to know that I knew you before you started any of this. It's awesome. It's amazing. Still your biggest fan. And so, where can we find you?
Yeah, I'm a little bit everywhere on
Besides
Facebook.
In the van.
Right. The creepy white van coming to a parking lot near you. No, I'm just kidding, kind of. You can find me on Facebook, which is Alexa Glazer. My Instagram is at Movin, Movin Alexa. On Instagram, I'm Livin the Dream the Movement, or Brown Bag Diaries. Some of my stuff's on YouTube if you search Alexa Glazer. I'm kind of anywhere you want me.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to doing more work with you in the future. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Alexa Glazer, everybody, and we will catch you back next week. Have a great day. Make sure you head over to unstuckandhappy.com, where you'll find the video version of all of our podcasts, as well as information about upcoming Unstuck Happiness conferences and moving beyond personal development retreats. Those are amazing. Make sure you join us again next week for another great Unstuck story. And in the meantime, keep living unstuck and happy.